and we're here live to talk with you about Week 12. We're going to preview Week 12 in the NFL. Along with me, we have celebrity producer David Piper, who you don't see, and we see Jim McCormick, who has discovered a feature on his Mac. Why don't you? Yes. So we'll be seeing some of that all stream. And if you're watching us not live, then you'll see that whenever you're watching the video. Thank you for watching, whether you're here with us. If you're here with us, say hi in the chat. And I want to thank DraftKings for sponsoring us. Without DraftKings, we wouldn't be able to do these live streams, and we think they're really fun. Our intention here is to preview the NFL games, make you laugh, and make picks against the spread. We'll also do some 5 minutes of fantasy. We'll have you guys who are live ask some fantasy questions along the way as well. I believe Dave is going to show you our records against the spread last week. Jim, we both did very well.
It's like we should just erase the first 4 weeks is my theory, but
no,
can't do that. But no,
I would prefer that we not do that.
I'm at base camp. I'm just starting to work on building my lung capacity up to win. So I'm getting there.
I think I'm 10 games over 500, which I'll take it. And you're right around 500, maybe a couple games under, but your best bets have been better than mine. And you know what? I ask cousin Josh for his best bets on the podcast every Friday, and he's 2-7. So let's just none of us worry about ourselves. Poor cousin Josh. So we're going to preview these games. We'll go faster on some games and slower on others. Let's start, Jim, by talking about the Thursday night weather game. We're told that we're expecting lake effect snow and high wind. I had to admit that when I saw that the Steelers were only like a field goal or so, a little more favored against the Browns, I was surprised. I expected it to be a bigger spread, especially the way the market reacts, because last week Cleveland kind of, got humiliated in the second half, and meanwhile Pittsburgh beats Baltimore. What's your philosophy when you think about handicapping, like what people are calling weather games?
Yeah, I like to reference like a 2017 article that I wrote for ESPN. That you don't see anything until about 40 miles per hour. I don't know. I forget that about that. But my main point is, I guess the total and the buildup of that shows me more. Like the total for this game was always going to be low, right? But like you mentioned before, it's getting
37
dramatically low. Yeah, it's getting the mid high 30s, and like those kind of things actually at a pretty high percentage. I think it's in the 60s or higher. Especially Thursdays go under. Even you think it can't go lower, and then you look up and it's like 12-7, and I don't know how they scored 7, but like the main point is that the Steelers, you would think that they earned this zeal, or like what you said, because it's 2 weeks in a row. They had that really strong performance against Jaden Daniels. It was kind of not the first time, but it helped kind of try to reveal that this Washington offense is mortal. But then last week was really the one, right? Like I had friends over to watch that game. I'm not a Steelers fan. I'm not a Ravens fan. That was that much of a marquee game. So I am a little surprised that the steam isn't there. And I suppose that speaks to the game. So it's one of those things where it didn't match what I thought. So, yeah.
Yeah, it might speak to the weather. It might speak to just the idea of like, I mean, let's face it, the roadside attraction of watching this game on Thursday night is Jameis Winston. It's a roadside attraction in that sometimes there's a car wreck and you can't look away, but the idea that it could be really windy and Winston still wants to throw 40 passes, he could throw 106 interceptions on only 40 pass attempts. I don't know how, but it is possible.
He might also throw like a boomerang touchdown, just to be clear. So.
That's fair. Elijah Moore, wait, that pass went backwards. I can't accept these points. I can't not, and then good conscience after last week when I made the Browns. The market moved with me, man. The Browns were an underdog by 1, and by kickoff they were 1.5 point favorite. The market was crazy heavy on the Browns. It looked okay in the first half and then not. After what they did to me last week, I'm going to give these points 3.5 as far as I know.
Well, I think that was a misreading of who wanted revenge. like Jameis
revenge game.
Yeah. Yes. So I'm giving the points here. I had this at -4.5. I thought it was going to be bigger than that. I was expecting the short week thing. I can't lie. I didn't know much about the weather thing when I looked at this line. It was Monday. So my main point was I just thought it was going to be one of these classic fistfights in the division. But at the same time, one where Pittsburgh controls it more than the score will reveal. Like it's going to be, I still don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I'm pretty confident in this one.
We're going to have a lot of division matchups in this week, and we're going to have a lot of big spreads in some division matchups. This is not one of them, but it is scary to give points when you know stupid Browns will just find a way to hang around because they know the Steelers really well. The coaching staffs are really familiar with what works and what doesn't work. And, you know, I mean, let's face it, Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson, the only effective thing they do is throw it downfield. And if you're telling me that's not possible because of hurricane force winds, then, you know, maybe it is a 12-7 game and maybe it's Cleveland that wins. I don't know, but I'm going to be with you there on Pittsburgh. Let's say hi to people in the chat, shall we? I see Go Hatters. I see Kevin. I see Max. I see Greg, Jaquan, and Michael, Amplified to Rock, Daniel, Jews Man, Kevin, Lindsay. Lindsay made it. Love Lindsay. Lindsay's an in real life friend here in California. There are some hearts. There's some hearts from Jim. Let's see. Brendan, Ty, Jeffrey. We got a good crowd here. Hot crowd. Let's talk about Sunday games. We'll start out with the Vikings going to Chicago. Another divisional game. It's going to be a big theme for the week. And we have to decide what we make of the Caleb Williams performance against the Packers that obviously should have led to a win, except for some crappy time management at the very end where there's 30-something seconds left and Eberflus is like scared of his own shadow, so he kneels and then misses the 40-whatever-yard field goal when Cairo Santos is like a million for a million inside a 40-yard field goal, and they could have tried. Anyway, but Caleb Williams led them on a game-winning drive, and it's a very different defensive challenge against the Vikings. Maybe you could start analysis of this game just by talking about that, about the fact that Caleb was good against Green Bay doesn't necessarily mean he's good against Minnesota.
Yeah, I guess Green Bay runs a more like honest look, like they just try to do what they do best and beat you, whereas also they have more talent, I suppose, to do that. But Minnesota, just like it's the Flores thing, it just reminds me of this old Eagles defensive coordinator, Jim Johnson, who just would like blitz everybody like all the time, like you're playing Madden. But at the same time, it's effective because he does it in these disguised ways. And his, like, for example, last year he had a safety who had like 300 pass reps like in the box, and then half of those are like old school stuff. So my main point is it's disguised, and that is going to be tough for a rookie, I think. One thing I did like last week, the Williams thing, was it felt like the last month he was trying to prove a point that he can win in the pocket. And it's like, buddy, like, we don't care. You know, like, he's like living there. It's like, just, you can leave. Like, you don't have to stay in the shallow end. And so I liked actually that he did some jazz stuff. That's what he's going to have to do against this like wild purple blur.
I mean, he's been doing some jazz stuff, but you're right. He would always stay behind the line of scrimmage, which kind of I understand to be his MO in college too, where like he wanted to scramble to throw. Right. Make a hero play, be Patrick Mahomes, and maybe somebody got through to him and said, "Hey, that part where you're escaping and you're really great at it, just run." Mm-hmm. I wasn't all that impressed with the game plan for most of the game, but then when they needed it at the end, they got aggressive with him and he performed much better. You're seeing with I think most of the rookie quarterbacks right now, you're seeing a lot fewer, and I'll say Anthony Richardson too, who we'll get to in a little bit. You're seeing a lot fewer like, I'm aiming the ball right there and it's going over there. You know, Caleb Williams was doing some of that, and I didn't see as much of that against Green Bay. So this is a little bit of a referendum on how much you believe in Caleb Williams. The Vikings are a divisional game. The coaching staffs know each other very, very well, and the Vikings are a 3.5-point favorite. What are you doing?
I mean, it feels a lot like this is like the NFC version of the game we just talked about in a way, you know, just like the volatility. Now, look, Jameis Winston's not Caleb Williams, but the volatility part. I'm going to give the points again. Not comfortable doing this. Road dogs, not great, but at the same time, just the better team. And Eberflus, Eberflus.
Eberflus. So I set it at 3, so that when I saw it was 3.5, I was like, oh, I get to be on Chicago. Fantastic. So I'm on Chicago, but don't feel great about it. We're going to get to the rest of the Week 12 games here in just a moment, but let's thank DraftKings for being a wonderful sponsor. We appreciate them so much. If you hear us, make a pick or two, and you're like, hey, maybe it's time. I'd like to give DraftKings a shot. If you download that DraftKings app, and you sign up using the code HarrisTube, all one word, HarrisTube, smushed together. They have a promotion going on where if you make one $5 bet and it hits, you get $150 in bonus bets. So pretty good deal. And if you get those bonus bets as a result of a winning $5 bet, then you get to spread them around. And, we really do suggest like $5 and $10 bets. Please don't bet a ton. But it does make games like I'll have a little I'll have probably $10 lighting on Thursday night because I don't care. And so this will give me a reason to care, so it's fun. So please, again, if you enjoy the show and you've never signed up at DraftKings, use that code HarrisTube. You'll make one $5 bet. If it hits, you get $150 in bonus bets. I want to mention, Jim, that in addition to us having a good week last week, we always ask people to post their best bets, either in the chat or down in the comments. And last week, can you believe we had a double winner? We had somebody who posted, it's like, I can't choose between these two. I feel so strongly about these two. And that person hit them both. Gaviathan is the username. Gaviathan had the Steelers and the Lions. Could you make some sort of hand gesture that will result in a graphic that people will enjoy? Lovely. Congratulations, Gaviathan. We are calling you out in a good way. And if you would calling you out endearing. And if you, the watcher, the viewer right now, would like to be called out on the show, tell us down in the comments or in chat your favorite point spread bet of the week. All right, let's get back to it. What more you just need to say? It's Tommy Cutlets. It's Meatball Tommy. I gotta imagine you're thrilled.
Baker Mayfield's like the calm, boring guy in this one.
The thing, my memory of Tommy Cutlets is that he wasn't all that exciting a thrower, but that he ran around like freaking crazy.
Like a nut. Like Tecmo Bowl style. You talked about Caleb Williams. Like he just goes back and he led the league in horizontal yards for 3 weeks last year.
So it is Tampa against the Giants, and the Giants have. Let's not even talk football. Have you seen the all right, we won't get to it. The Daniel Jones stuff is crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah, and then it's elevating Drew Lock press conferences. There's a lot of ripple effect.
That is a lot going on. And yet Tampa still, I guess, kind of an outside threat only because of their division. Right. What am I sitting on? I'm sitting under a Tampa under 7.5. I didn't realize they were going to be playing the Giants, so I feel like maybe that's not going so well. But Mike Evans may return. Mayfield has been consistent and good, and I think his most underrated quality is probably just getting hit, bouncing like a pinball, and still being able to set himself up to throw. I don't know. This is the moment where Baker Mayfield does you in, but I feel like they kind of romp here.
Yeah, I wanted to take I thought this was going to be closer because of the grossness of Tampa lately, but yeah. I had it at 6, so I'm going to go give the points. I don't know. I guess my main thing is the DeVito thing is just super exciting for all of us who just love his agent. But really, we talked about Flores. Bowles has a lot of issues. Todd Bowles is like Flores who's been figured out, right? But at the same time, I don't know if this Giants offense is the one to apply that. So, yeah.
So if I were to characterize what I've seen, and you probably are a better observer of this than I am, but they blitz a ton for sure, but it's always the safety sitting back.
Yeah.
So you got the hard shell on the outside. You're going to have 4 guys in the secondary, and then they're going to blitz. And so if anybody is a Giants backer here and thinks they're going to hang in this game or maybe upset Tampa, who's, let's face it, not an elite team by any stretch, it's going to be because they just kill them in the middle of the field over and over and over again. And Tampa doesn't really have an answer. Tampa's answer for that, correct me if I'm wrong, is getting to the quarterback. If they don't get to the quarterback, you can beat them that way.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they have this one super safety, of course, Winfield, but then like they literally just forgot about the rest. It's just they have one A and yeah.
He stays back though. He's a great player, but like he doesn't really play in the box that often.
No, it's old school where like he's this center fielder, which and it doesn't even have to get there because everything else is open. So
agreed.
I just said that, and I'm still giving the points. Go Birds.
I am also giving the points. I feel pretty good about that one. We'll go quick through Tennessee, Houston. I think the thought here for me is that Houston isn't any good. How's Houston laying 8.5 points? And then I go, I mean, Houston is okay. Like they're just not elite, like I thought they would be. And then I go, what's Tennessee against the spread? Is it 2-9 at this point? I think maybe. I think I probably just lay these points, and I probably don't play it in my private life.
Yeah, one of my best bets, I believe, this year, a really bad one. I think it was like taking 12 or 13 points with the Titans, and they were somehow a minute in the game down 45 to the. So anything's possible with this team. And you talked about the rookies that aren't staring things down. Like Will Levis is not on that Discord. Like he's because I guess he's not a rookie, but with regards to Anthony Richardson. We're not seeing it yet with this guy, so I can believe this. This feels like an early season Houston line, but maybe Nico and some of the things are bringing back, rekindling that. I had it at -10 because I just think Tennessee is that like they're when they're bad, they're just going to get killed.
Their defense is good. It continues to be good, and anybody who studies luck factor. They all say Tennessee's been the unluckiest team gambling-wise in the league this year, and I don't care. I'm still going to be on Houston's side. I see in the chat, I see Kevin, Derek. They're like, no, give the points. Rather, take the points. Plus 8.5, plus 8.5. Like, I get it. I get that feels like the right sort of division matchup. Houston probably overrated still. Kind of a public team because they were fun last year. Like, I get why this unlucky Titans. I just can't do it with my own money. There's no chance.
My thing is you're going to if you feel that way, when Houston scores really quick in that game, you're going to feel really weird because you're going to realize that you just bet an even game essentially because, like, I just think it's how many paths does Tennessee have to make it interesting unless they make this a weird game? So,
yeah, I mean, they need to make it a weird game. Anyway, I don't have a great feel for it, but I think I'd be on Houston. Let me take a moment and say hi to the chat and ask if maybe the chat would be willing to give us a like spike here because it helps us with the algorithm. If I count down 3, 2, 1, we get a bunch of likes at the same time. Here we go. Get that little thumbs up button on our page here on this video, and we go 3, we go 2, we go 1. We get some likes. What do you have to do? Oh, there you go. I see it. That is good stuff. Jim, that's fireworks, man. Look at all those likes. We appreciate you very much. We're going to do 5 minutes of fantasy in just a little bit. Let's get back. That's good stuff. Let's get back to the games. So speaking of points that I was unwilling to lay and then felt bad about it when Detroit scored 8 times in the first 5 minutes of the game. That was bad call by me, picking Jacksonville. Now the Lions go on the road. Jim, I don't know if you know this, but they're indoors in Indianapolis. Yeah. So that's good for Jared Goff. The Colts are kind of who I want to talk about here. I think we probably agree that if the Lions aren't the best team in the league, they're pretty close, and they seem like, no offense to the Eagles, probably the best team in the NFC by a pretty good margin.
I think so, yeah.
So I want to talk about the Colts because I've said this in a couple of venues. I was just on Jake Seeley's show. I said this, but like you watched the Jets-Colts game and Anthony Richardson's back after his
sabbatical.
Exile, I guess you'd say, sabbatical, right? And they come out running 20 times in the first 20 minutes. They are terrified to have Anthony Richardson do anything. They tried to have him on the Tua plan, whatever, the short passing plan, where you're a little aggressive. Josh Downs had a nice touchdown. Like, they played well in the first quarter, but mostly run and like, let's keep the trains on schedule. And then the Jets come back in the second half. They take a 2-score lead. They take multiple leads in this second half. And Anthony Richardson, 2 straight drives, looks like nails. Mm-hmm. And like, what do they say when you in baseball? They say when you display a skill, you own that skill. Right. Does Anthony Richardson own that skill now?
Yeah, there's the Bill James take. Yeah, no, it's true. I guess that's the problem to say that he owns any skill, because that's what got him drafted, was these extreme, the Carson Wentz stuff, where you saw the highlights and you're like, oh my, and then the people up close were like, no, oh my, like real like Jamie Eisenberg. I did a draft next to him this summer, and I remember him just saying, like, I want to love this guy, but the Florida, because he just was so close to it, it was hard for him to envision. But I'll say this: he looked really, really good in the second half. He looked like the ideal. And you mentioned it before, the staring down thing. He was so bad early in the year. He was literally like right there, and then he would overthrow it or put it right in the safety's hands. I'm back on Shane Steichen. I'm Team Steichen.
It just took 1 week. I'll just say also, the Lions playing Indianapolis on the road, as much as people might joke about it and want it to be the same as playing Jacksonville at home, Jacksonville is an entirely different level of crap.
Yeah, they're done.
They're so cooked, and the effort was so poor in the second half. And has Doug Peterson been fired yet? I don't believe he has, but
it's truly just like
it's amazing.
He just gives out ice cream. That's what he does.
To Shad Khan, to the owner. Look, can they have more? And then he keeps them. If they're on bye, maybe they're still going to do it. I don't know. I think it's too many points. I think playing a real team on the road, it's not as easy. I mean, I guess on the home road, we're deciding if that's worth a point. Maybe that's too much. I don't know, man. I'm taking them plus 7.5.
I had this at 6.5. So there you go. That's a big number. When you get beyond that 7 gate, that's an important thing. So I just feel like this has, like you said, the Colts actually have look, their secondary can be really rough, but they have things that can happen on defense, meaning there is some talent in the front seven. They're just fast and light and little, but I think that actually works against this Detroit team, who is like a speed team. So just wait till Hutchinson comes back, but he's not. So, yeah.
No, he's not. Maybe that's dumb. I don't know. Chat, you tell us. You think that one's dumb? We're both on the Colts. Are the Lions just going to rampage through all the mediocre teams in the AFC South? What does Chat say?
Yeah, I'm in one sentence, I'm like, the Titans are terrible, and then I'm like, go Colts. So
Ghost says smash that like button, which I completely agree with in the chat. Brian says Lions. Brian says, come on guys, you're overthinking it. Lions are just good. They're just going to win by a lot. Max says, I'm a Lions fan. He's going to be on the Lions here. Dave Piper's in our ears. He's not going to be hearable to those guys, but Dave Piper lives in Michigan, so Dave's going to tell us who he would take in this game. Lions. He says Lions. You guys are idiots. He didn't say idiots.
They are pretty good. But
Nate says Lions. Will says give those points. Cole says Lions by 20. So we are on an island here. The smarter people than us in the chat are definitely all about the Lions. Derek says it's a fair line. It's a comeback to earth game. That's kind of what we're hoping for. Yeah, it's kind of what we're hoping for. Boy, the Dallas Cowboys. Oh no, I almost skipped the Kansas City Chiefs. They lost. The Kansas City Chiefs lost.
Wild stuff. Heck? Yeah, I mean, they're doing this up. It's the setup. They lose now to win in January. It's the old Andy Reid.
Andy Behrens was on the show today, and he was talking about La Liga, and Colin from La Liga because he's also in large. Wonderful guy, and he's rampaging through La Liga right now. He's got had the best record, the best team, the best points, everything. And Andy said, just like the Bills and the Chiefs, I let him win in the regular season because we all know who's going to win the postseason. It was harsh but fair. When it's Bills at Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, we'll see how it goes. Did you learn anything about the Chiefs in that game?
That at some point the hanging around and waiting for you to make the mistake thing will have a cost, right? I suppose I actually came away kind of a little bit more impressed meaning they were able to defensively, I think, do things with Allen that I hadn't seen in a while, and it made him pull out that last play, that the heroics. But they put him in some pretty tough situations. I still think Spags has a really good handle on that Buffalo team, but it took otherworldly Allen things. So I suppose I feel less smoke and mirrors about them. Not that I felt that, but like I would say that that's not true. The whole hanging around and waiting for you thing. I actually thought they played a good game.
I think they played a good game too. I mean, Mahomes, the early pick was really bad. The late pick was just, whatever. Tell me what you think about this. I was surprised how much man the Bills played when they're mostly a zone team on defense. And I was doubly surprised that the Chiefs really didn't take advantage of it. Like, I get that Travis Kelce might not be the best option when it's man coverage because he's slowed down and he's used to making hay, with just brilliant reads in real time against zone. And if and if it's not zone, then okay, I get it. But like, shouldn't DeAndre Hopkins be eating up man? Shouldn't Xavier Worthy be eating up man?
Be, right.
And there were times where it felt like Mahomes was a little bit confused to me.
I can see that. Yeah, I mean, I suppose he's still waiting for his Uber driver or whatever. Like it's still not here yet. I mean, the Worthy thing. I did like the inclusion of Worthy on a little bit more
early on
plays, which was nice. Mm-hmm. But they get away from that. But I suppose it's true. Like they've tried everything. I mean, we're now getting Hollywood Brown updates, like to speak to the state of the team. Meaning, like it was supposed to be this mega thing. Yeah, I can see. I suppose I was not just watching defense, but I just thought I really liked how they handled the Bills' offense. But I did. That is true. They didn't set up in their normal sit back and wait thing. They played a lot of man, which is interesting because you would think that Reed would punish that right away.
Yeah, and like maybe you weren't expecting it the first time, but do you want to save anything for the playoffs? But the Bills were just like they were right. They were right in this. Don't save anything. It's 4th and 2. Go, Josh, run. Like,
Tracy Wolfson afterwards was like, no, really, how important was it? And he was like, I'm not going to say
it. Yeah, but it was. I think it's too many points. I mean, when we wrote it down, the chat is saying it's 10 right now. We wrote it down it's 11. Maybe it's moved. I think it's if it's 11, I'm going to take them rather. I'm on another dog here.
I'm giving these no matter what. I have it at 12.
Okay.
I mean that I know that the Kansas City is not the blow you out team, but this feels a lot like the Houston game where you just get that first score and it's just going to be downhill.
It's Dave says it's updated to 10.5. So I have it at 11. That's when we made our picks. So pardon me, chat, but I'm going to be Carolina plus 11. I'll tease it up to 11. I'm not teasing it up half a point. Now we get to the Cowboys, America's team. I just got to ask you, how much fun did you have Monday night?
Phew. See, so there's this theory which is a terrible theory, that you're not allowed to have fun when somebody is just like splashing around in a dirty puddle. Of course you are.
Schadenfreude.
Yes. Like, you know how much like that sweatshirt is ruined. I mean, Mike McCarthy is just out. He doesn't have a headset. It's disconnected. He's just talking into a headset.
The stadium almost fell on him.
I mean,
yeah. It was rough. However, what do you think of the Commanders against your Eagles last Thursday? Not that it wasn't close, like the score was not indicative of how the game was going. There's a moment where the Commanders go for 4th down. If they don't, they kick the field goal, they have a lead. Yeah. Which I think they probably should have kicked the field goal given the play call. Like the lack of aggression with Jaden Daniels, which is such stark contrast from the unbelievable aggression there for basically 2 months. It feels related to the ribs. They're not really letting him run, but they're not even letting him throw down the field. I think one downfield pass to Terry McLaurin that whole game, and you really probably could have used it. I guess they saw Jalen Hurts, not putting up a big number, so they were like, okay, let's just hang around. And they were in it in the 4th quarter. But if that's the Commander offense in this game, I think Dallas kind of has a way to keep it at least like single digits.
That's exactly it. Is that there is something happening, right? Because the difference is massive, and even in like basically anything pre-Steelers, it looked like a different guy, Jaden Daniels, or whatever the exact rib injury was. But the point is what I noticed was they were living off of dump offs the entire time. Like the big gash plays were like screen plays and little dump offs to Eckler and Robinson, and they tried to live through that theory, and it worked for the longest time because the Eagles have a Chiefs thing. They're not as good as Chiefs, of course, but they have this thing where they just muck around and they don't let their talent overwhelm you until the end. My thing is that like the number is too big for me because of like what's so different about, you know what I mean? Like is Daniels suddenly better right now? I don't know.
Yeah, it would be easy to overreact and say, I don't name your number. I want the Commanders at home against the Cowboys. I think it would be an overreaction. I didn't think the Cowboy defense played that badly actually against Houston. Their offense was terrible, but I also like Houston's defense and pass rush, even without Will Anderson, more than I like anything that Washington brings. So I don't know. You can tell me I'm crazy about that, but it sounds like we're both on the same side. We're both Dallas plus 10.5. For the second straight week, I don't have a play on the Patriots, not because I have my heart broken. I am very emotionally divorced right now from the Patriots, but because I nailed the line. It's the only one I nailed. It's Dolphins -7, but you hold yourself to a higher standard than I do, so you make a pick for every game. Who do you like in that one?
I mean, this is tough because it's a division week, right? But you mentioned there are all these tight lines. This is a big division line. This is kind of hard for me to read. I love how Drake May is playing. Like,
me too.
So I'm going to take the points. It's too many for me. It's just too many for me.
In New England, what? It was 15-10, I think, but that was no Tua.
And there's also, you've said it before, but like, it's also just the league in general. Like, it's a catch-up league. We talked about the Hurts year, and it took time. And I think that's happened with McDaniels to an extent. And also just like, there's a lot of things going on. Like, Hill doesn't look like himself. Too many factors. And Drake is just, there's more to the Patriots than meets the eye. They're the Transformers.
They are the Transformers. Do you have like a Skype hand gesture that you can give us for Transformers?
No, it was like
nice. I love it. You know what? Let's do 5 minutes of fantasy. Let's take people's questions. We got like 100 people sitting in here, and we love them. And so, you know what? You guys tell us your fantasy questions. We'll try to rapid fire through as many as we can, because I know you all also like us to talk fantasy sometimes. So I have to vamp a little bit because it takes a second for you to see me, and then it takes a second for the questions to get typed in. But in the meantime, Jim is obviously entertaining all of us. So let's see. Must Buy says, who do I trust more in a PPR? Javonte Williams or Tony Pollard? Of course, I have ranks. Jim, are you? I have ranks.
Javonte Williams, because his team has a pulse.
I'm looking in my full PPR ranks. I have Javonte 21 and Pollard 24. So I too will be on Javonte Williams. Joe, my buddy Joe, real life friend Joe says, is Mixon's playoff schedule that includes the Chiefs and the Ravens scary enough to consider trading him away?
I mean, are the Ravens scary? Like, they're bad. I suppose they can play certain games to isolate you, but I wouldn't.
I'm not scared of their run defense. I mean, the Chiefs that's a bad matchup, and you might have to weather it.
That's real. But also, like he can get 3 touchdowns on 4 carries. Like, he's Jerome Bettis.
Yeah. For me, I don't think I would be trading him away, Joe. And you can text me next time. We do text. He's a good man. Where are we? Joe B says, better handcuff. I lost it. Charbonnet or Braylon Allen?
Give me Braylon Allen, because I think he's just better, kind of. Or I don't know. They give Charbonnet the stuff, but I'm in for the unknown. Braylon seems fun.
I think I'd say Charbonnet because I think they're better. Seattle.
Okay. Better team,
yeah.
Right, yeah.
Dan says, Brown Steelers is supposed to be crazy weather. We talked about that off the top. Does that change the prospects of the weapons there?
I mean, yeah. When the point total is like sub 40, I'm just like, this. It can't be as good as a market that's 50. So. Yeah,
I haven't metabolized it yet into my ranks because this is all kind of news to me. And I think I'm gonna have Cedric Tillman some flexual healing questions tomorrow on the podcast, and I think I'm probably going to lower my crossover points for him among running backs. Dan, oh no, that was Dan. Derek says, am I flexing Nick Chubb or DeAndre Hopkins?
I'll go Chubb.
Wow.
You know, the Hopkins thing is like, he can make some plays. He's kind of a possession guy right now to me. So
yeah, I would pick Hopkins. I don't think I want any part of Nick Chubb right now. Half of a weather game, running game against the Steelers. That doesn't sound good. Robert says, should my wife leave me because I didn't start the Smiling Goon?
Obviously.
Yes. The smiling goon, of course, being Taysom Hill. Igloo says, short list of favorite coaches.
Shane Steichen. No, short list of favorite coaches.
I'd say Andy Reid. I'd say Sean McVay.
I love Andy Reid. Yeah.
I'd say Kyle Shanahan, except for in the last 2 minutes of a close game, but he's very good at everything else. Mike Tomlin.
I love Tomlin the most, I think. I think he's most entertaining because he does like the Jim Halpert face. Like that. That's just great.
Yeah, I'd say that's my short list. Max says, Chris, I see you have Ridley ranked higher than DJ Moore. Curious. I was a little surprised. Why? I don't know. Do I? I don't really remember. I mean, they must be pretty close. I would say I'm sort of do trust. Well, put it this way. I trust Moore a little bit after last week in terms of who's going to have more catches. That'll be Moore. But who's going to catch it more downfield based on last week? It's going to be Ridley. And I guess probably I was weighing the upside. I mean, Ridley had a touchdown taken away by a penalty. I think that's my theory. But they're pretty close. Do you have a strong take between Ridley and DJ Moore for this week?
I just think like if you're going to if it's close, I would say that the big dog, if you want to talk about game script, it could just be gross passing all day. And I just think straight up volume could be the way to play. Meaning Ridley could just be so busy on a bad team.
Jaquan says in a super flex, Trey Lance or Demario Douglas?
Wow, that's an incredible question.
Demario Douglas. We don't think Trey Lance will get on the field. I mean, he said Tommy DeVito's already owned.
Right.
Seabass, with all the buys this week, where does the wide receiver 3 infinite sadness start in your ranks? Is it right after the top 10? I don't know. Let me look at my ranks. Where's the true sadness start where you're I'm God.
Guess that it's in the mid-teens, late.
Yeah. I would say, Malik Neighbors 17 is still pretty usable. I feel okay about that. I don't think I have Calvin Ridley ahead. I guess in PPR I have Calvin Ridley 2 spots ahead of Moore. I'm just looking right now, and then the other way around in full PPR. I mean in no PPR. This infinite sadness is probably around 19, 20, 21, I would say, and that's probably like roughly where it usually is. Maybe add Chase and Higgins in there, right? There's no Bills receiver that gets in there. So I don't actually think the sadness is that much different this week. It's just kind of gross. Ty says Lockett, Goddard, or Jerome Ford.
Goddard's getting the ball right now. But it's gonna be him. Sure. I just like how he's getting the ball. He's getting the ball on the seam and he's healthy. So that's rare.
I mean, the bottom line is Ty, we're at the point where, it's going to be one play, and it's hard to say who's going to be good with one play. Herman says, I'm a Chubb fan. His drop from the rest of the season rankings means you can drop him for a lottery ticket like Jonathan Brooks or Cam Akers. What do you think?
Yeah, I could do Brooks. I could see that.
I can see any handcuff. I don't think you need to be. Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't think you need to be owning Nick Chubb. Maybe I'll feel horrible about that after Thursday night. But if he didn't do it against New Orleans, and he didn't, they tried. Hey, Dave Piper. Oh, you weren't watching, but we talked about the Browns game beforehand. Like, how'd you feel about that 4th and 1 on the first drive at midfield? Exactly. Correct. Let's see. Do we have any others in here? Cole, McLaurin, or Tony Pollard? McLaurin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're gonna work to get him the ball.
Kevin says, which Patriot receiver, Pop Douglas or Kendrick Bourne?
I mean, Bourne seems like he's getting a little bit better chemistry. I don't know.
At least in that one game, right? I mean, he didn't play. He was inactive. He got maybe not inactive. He got 0 play against the Bears, and then he comes out and plays really well against the Rams. I'm going to say Bourne.
I saw his name scroll across my TV, so that means he matters.
I'm going to say Bourne too. All right. We hope you enjoyed your 5 minutes, a little more than 5 minutes of fantasy. Let's continue on and talk about some late games. The Cardinals are going to Seattle after a bye week, and the last thing we saw of the Cardinals was they killed the Jets, but that's really not as impressive an accomplishment as the Seahawks coming back to beat the 49ers. What I wanted to ask you about when I circled this game was, we've been kind of harsh on Mike McDonald and not thinking he's done a very good job. And then suddenly they pull that out against the 49ers. I know you've now watched it. Do you think that was real? Was that like a 1 week, just kind of like the Niners shot themselves in the foot? Do you view the Seattle defense differently now?
I think I do. I mean, I suppose I have to give it's a complicated system. I mean, I don't know the full system. I just know that from people say that integrating it took McDonald a while in Baltimore to get them to and obviously it helps when you gel with like super safeties. But that's the thing with Seattle. They had some talent. They have these top corners. You know, they continue to try to fix the line. I guess my main thing was that their ability to contain like to stay disciplined has been better. They used to have these really bad lapses. It's not that they were always bad throughout the game. It's that you could gash them super bad mistakes. And some of that might have been just learning the system and young corners. And so I do find some real credence in that performance, particularly with how they forced Brock to make like tough decisions where everything in San Francisco is easy decisions or not. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like lay the plate out and they made it tough. Especially
when you pass rush, you know, when you pressure, right. When you bring pressure, I mean, San Francisco, that's their thing. They have hot reads. Like they don't want to adjust pressure. You know, you don't see Brock Purdy canning to a new protection. They just run the play. He'll can to a different play, but like if he's keeping the same play, he doesn't change protection. He doesn't like point who should go where, all that stuff. He just knows who his hot read is. Right. And like, for example, Dave Piper and we were all talking about the interception that Purdy had in that game. Like McCaffrey is his hot read there, and Witherspoon is man coverage on him and just like leans over him and pops it up in the air. I don't know if that's Purdy's fault. That's where you're supposed to go. And it's just a really good defensive play. So I put some credence in it too. And I am taking the Cardinals. Ho! Yeah, I actually am too, only because I believe in them more. I just believe in the quarterback more. And this is starting to feel a little NFC Southy in a more respectable way. But just the fact that I can never tell who's going to do what in this NFC West. So that said, I don't think Seattle is some like super trending team. I just think they show they can show up. They can, and that was a great run by Geno, and he was heroic after he was very much not heroic earlier in the game. Like, you just are always going to get the full gamut, and it just depends on, does he make his massive mistake at a point where it's going to kill the team? Like, and sometimes he does, and sometimes he doesn't. Like against the Niners, he didn't, but I'm not buying the complete Geno renaissance. So I'm on Arizona +1. Very good game. The 49ers, they go to Green Bay. They are... If they're not, you know, like if they're in the AFC, they'd be fine. Mm-hmm. But this preseason favorite in the NFC doesn't look like at all like a Super Bowl contender and has a real chance not to make the playoffs at all. And they're visiting Green Bay, should have lost themselves without a missed field goal. I wish we had enough time for me to ask you the question, what's wrong with the 49ers? Because it's still the same players mostly. They've had a lot of injuries. Sure. But like it's still mostly the same players. Everyone, Ayuk's out. McCaffrey's back now. Kittle will be back. Like they just haven't looked all that good. And it's hard for me to say that people like figured out the system because they still move the ball great. It's hard for me to say the defense is terrible because it's kind of not terrible. Mm-hmm. I guess Nick Bosa missing this game would be a big deal. Yes. You know, that would matter. I don't know. How are you currently looking at this 49er team? Yes, because like the superlatives still exist. Like Fred Warner is like an actual defensive player of the year candidate, even amid like the team on a 500 team. Yeah, exactly. So he still is but I guess it shows you, you know, I don't know enough about like what's happening overall in the roster. I've watched them, but I'm not like super close to watching this team. So I suppose I can't tell like who hasn't played well or like, is it Javarius? You know what I mean? Like for example, they've gotten great years before out of like the Javarius Ward types. And like, is that what's happening? Are they not? Because the stars, it doesn't seem like I can identify one player is what I'm trying to say. It's not like Purdy's playing poorly. You said it, the line's not falling apart. I think it's a mixture of all of it. And also I think the division's better. Like I really believe that. I think that it was a division where they could just stomp for years and they were better. They just were better. Like the 53-man roster was healthier, better, cohesive. And we've seen this before, like 3 or 4 years into a system, it does get some malaise. And it's not that Shanahan's not great. It's that babbling, but yeah. Yeah. No. For sure, you're going to hear postmortems if this continues that says, well, right. You go to that many playoff games, you have that many, you just have that much extra football compared to everybody else. Serious, yeah. I don't know. Like the Patriots seem to be able to hang in. Chiefs seem to be able to hang in. They play a little extra football. Sure. Like maybe the fun McVay offenses that were dominating the league a year and a half ago are just not unique anymore because a third of the teams run them.
Sure.
And you know what's going to – now there's just no question you're going to get safeties back the whole game, and they're going to make you matriculate. You know, we didn't talk about the Dolphins, but like the Dolphins are just not the same offense anymore because the safeties are like, yeah, we'll be over here and we'll be putting an extra guy on Tyreek Hill. And otherwise, you know, just go ahead, do your 3-yard passes. And maybe I don't know, maybe that's what's going on. Green Bay, like you said, on defense kind of does what they do. And, you know, I don't trust Jordan Love. I love him for fantasy because he's super aggressive and he's always looking to go downfield, but he always has a big mistake or two. The Packers are a 2.5-point favorite at Lambeau. What are you thinking there?
I feel some desperation from this. You talked about the postmortem potential. I'm going to take the points. I think this 49ers team is still quite good. I suppose something that is missing is I don't feel like they had several years, they like just beat the crap out of you. Like, meaning they had that Steelers kind of feel to them. I don't know if that's the feel as much. Maybe that's has to do with the Hargrave signing, not doing well, or Bosa being hurt. Either way, I'm going to go ahead and take the points just because I think it's too close to call for that.
I think that's what it is. It's that who's got the better roster? I think San Francisco probably. I mean, if Nick DeBosa doesn't play, maybe that's not true, but it's close. I would make it kind of even, and we don't think home field means anything. So if I'm, you know, I don't really know how it'll go. I set the line at 2. I'm not trying to tell you I think there's great value in it, but I'm also San Francisco plus 2.5. We've got the Broncos and Bo Nix. I'm going to do a big Bo Nix film review on the podcast on Thursday morning. I've already watched every single Bo Nix pass attempt of the last 5 games since week 7, because before that he was bad, but he's been playing better. And I am loaded down with Bo Nix knowledge. They are visiting the Raiders, and I don't feel the need to talk too much about this game. Although it's a division game, again, we get a big road favorite against division opponent. They're favored by 5.5.
I'm just going to steal your pre-show analysis and make it mine, which was that this Denver team feels like the epitome of of a really strong, the great regular season formula, like a top corner that can shut down half of the field. This pass rush that came, like Jonathan Franklin, some of these guys that came out of nowhere, like they've been great. And the other thing is I do trust the coaching. So I want to hear about the Bo Nix stuff because he still sounds like a made-up NCAA college name. But
well, you get to listen to the first 15 minutes of tomorrow's podcast. You'll get all the Bo Nix.
I listened to some nerdy podcast last week about the draft, and they had mentioned how what's interesting is that Nix is already looking more like what they thought the ideal was of him. Now I don't know if that means we should be saying this is the best version of him, but that he got there quicker, and maybe that's a Peyton thing. I don't know what to say, but it looks like he feels
he's been good.
Yeah.
He's been a lot better since week 7. He's been a lot better. I'm going to give these points Denver minus 5.5. Then we get Sunday night. Do we have a stuffed animal sighting? Do we have one?
Yeah.
Wait, here's the birds. I don't know. I feel like we talked about the Eagles. Well, maybe we didn't talk about the Eagles enough. Jalen Hurts, man, he's your quarterback. How do you feel?
Yeah, about that. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to talk about the Sixers. No, but seriously, Hurts is so you have the thing that's lacking on this team by a big margin is the bankability and the consistency of the passing game. And we've talked about it, but it's really just like outside shots or he takes off and runs. The one encouraging thing is he looks a lot better as a runner since last year's injury. Like the worry was like, did he get McNabbed? Meaning like McNabb had one summer where he just got like 40 pounds of muscle and could never run again. There was a fear about that with Jalen around here. But he looks good running. But again, it's very, very simple stuff. It's either 18 yards out and he might miss it, or it's going to be a run. And I just think it's so formulaic. So it might, again, I just talked about Denver. As people talk about this Eagles team being super dangerous, I think it feels more regular season-y. But this is the regular season. So that's cool.
This is the regular season. You know, I'm going to make a comparison that I don't think you're going to like. But the more I look at them and the more I think about it, I think Jalen Hurts is like squat Russell Wilson. Like squat rack Russell Wilson. Like what's the complaint about Russell Wilson? Why couldn't he hack it with Sean Payton? It's because he wouldn't throw the middle of the field in tight windows.
Yeah.
And ever since the first year, I was blown away how well Hurts threw to the middle of the field into tight coverage. And I guess the defenses have adjusted, and he doesn't throw it there anymore.
No, and I maybe he was not just, but like I don't know about the ego thing, but you were able to challenge him too because he was trying to find his footing. That's when he was trying to like actually become an NFL starter. Not to say it's regression, but he's back to the comfort stuff, which maybe this is who he is. It probably is, right? Where this is the Jalen Hurts experience. So I think it can really win you these kind of games. So I actually continue to like them in this position, particularly against this Rams defense. I don't like the Rams defense. They're not in a good situation for this. I understand that the Rams are really rolling at times on offense, but this seems like a game where the 53-man kind of thing we just talked about, it's just too overwhelming, I think, for the Rams.
I'm also giving them. It's Eagles 2.5 here in Los Angeles, and I'm giving them. And then there's another game in Los Angeles, back-to-back games that I absolutely will not go to.
The Brother Bowl.
It's Harborough. It is the Harbros. It's the Ravens coming to the Chargers, and I've been waiting all show to talk to you about the Chargers because, dude, the thing that is making me laugh the most is everybody's going, I guess they're not the same old Chargers, huh? I guess they're not the same old Chargers. And I'm like, if the field goal kicker could kick, they would have lost a game. They were winning by 3 touchdowns. Are you kidding me? It's the exact same Chargers.
It's a formula camp. It's like it lives in. You can move the stadium. You can change the name. The powder blue's never leaving your soul. Okay.
Oh my God, unreal. They're good. They're a good team. They're good. I'm not bitter because I was on Cincinnati. I'm not bitter. But like Evan McPherson make a kick, and then I would love to see. But okay, we've got the Ravens also coming off a pretty cruddy effort, and Lamar for the first time looking. I love how everybody's like, well, now Josh Allen's the MVP. Oh yeah, we forgot the first 10 weeks. But like Lamar did look mortal. I don't think he'll look quite as mortal against this Chargers defense. I mean, last week on this show, I said, boy, I've got questions about whether the Eagle defense numbers are real. And then it turned out they looked pretty real. Like I have a lot more respect for that Eagle defense after the Commander game. And I said the same thing about the Charger defense. If they're able to do that to Cincinnati instead of whoever, the Titans or whatever, then I'll start believing. And I don't believe. I don't think they're bad, but I don't think they're great.
No, it felt very Chargers-y. And it wasn't just it revealed the full gamut of Chargers ring, meaning like it was the defense, special teams, and offense. It was the full experience of. So I really do wonder philosophically what the birth of all that is, but I don't want to question it. I just want to let it keep happening.
I do too. So the Ravens, I guess it's John is 2.5 point favorite over Jim on the road, although there'll be more Raven fans here. And more Eagle fans here than anybody rooting for the LA teams. So I don't know how much I care about where it's being played. What do you think?
And only one of them knows who broke Mrs. Johnson's window. You know, Jim. You did it. All right. So I'm giving the points just because I think, one, they're just that game last week was real. And there were so many ways Baltimore could have won. And we're not talking like this. We're not talking like this. But the idea that there's some change in Lamar. Like, come on, guys. He just fought one of his toughest opponents who knows him really well. This is a different situation. They don't have the pass rush to handle him, but more importantly, they don't have the linebacker speed that like Queen and those guys had to have to be able to play side to side with Lamar. So I actually think this is a pretty off line.
I don't know if I think it's an offline. I had it Ravens 3, but it's 2.5, so I'm with you on the Ravens side. So tell us in the chat right now, or tell us if you're watching afterwards down in the comments, your favorite point spread of the week, and we'll pick out somebody who gets it right, and we'll shout them out on next week's show. Jim, you and I this year, we're picking 2 best bets, and I want to ask you what yours are.
I'm keeping it simple. Road teams in Los Angeles. I'll say it like a Philadelphia fan. Yeah, dude, we're going to L.A. I know a dude named Ron. Met him one time in South Jersey. He's going to let me stay on his couch. Not sure about that. I'm going to knock when I get there. Go Birds.
We overlap on the Eagles. I also picked the Eagles as one of my best bets, and I picked the Broncos. So what could go wrong? We're just perpetually taking road favorites. I feel like that always works out. Can we do, before we leave, do you think we could get away with one more like spike before people stream out of here? Can we get 3? Can I do a 3, 2, 1? Ready? 3, 2, 1. Give me a like. Hopefully maybe the algorithm will hit us up. We're getting the devil horns out of Jim. Oh, there they are. Look at those hearts. Wow, we love you. Thank you so much for that. That will do it. We have previewed Week 12. We hope you had fun. And again, tell us in the comments or in the chat what your favorite bet of the week is, and that will enter you into a contest that means nothing. And we'll say your name on a live stream. That's fun, though. Also, thank you to DraftKings for sponsoring. And if you sign up to DraftKings, please do sign up using the code HarrisTube, all one word. Make one $5 bet. If you get it right, you'll get $150 in bonus bets put into your account. The real hero of the show, of course, is Dave Piper. Thank you, Dave, so much. Thank you, Jim, very much. Thank all the chatters who are hilarious and awesome. I'm Chris. Thanks for watching. Bye.